understanding the stages of change and where you're at in those stages of change and how you move in and out of them, the role that perfectionism, shame, limiting beliefs, and fear play in the clutter that is in your home, how your values play into what you keep and what you don't keep, how all of your habits, your good and bad habits, play into what you have and how you can change those habits, how to truly set goals, like really giving you concrete ways to set goals, and then applying all of that to these different areas of your home. So your kitchen, your bedroom, your clothes, I separate those two out, your bathrooms, your storage areas, your sentimental items, your living spaces, your communal living spaces, all that. Because it gets into the mental and emotional stuff.
Today's guest is Kate Evans, a psychologist and decluttering coach who helps people overcome their mental and emotional barriers to decluttering, which is exactly what she addresses in her new book, Ditch Your Shit, Decluttering Your Mindset to Declutter Your Home. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me, Anita.
I'm really excited for this conversation. And let's be honest, who can't do with decluttering?
I think pretty much everybody could deal with a little bit of removing the excess that no longer serves them in all areas of life.
Absolutely. That's lovely put, actually. So, with that said, what is one of the most courageous things that you have done?
Gosh, I was thinking about that question and I was thinking, okay, so do I say when I faced my lifelong fear of sharks and I got myself in the water with them and swam with them, do I say when I fell in love and I let somebody love me in return, or when I opened my first business and I felt like throwing up for 2 months? But then I thought it was actually when I was in therapy and my therapist pointed out to me that I was a bully.
Oh, wow.
And that was awful. And no, I'm not a bully. You have to be kidding me. I am the kindest, sweetest, most lovely human being you could ask for. And I walked away from that session just grumpy. And then because I'm a terrible client in therapy and in coaching, and I resist everything. And then I walk away and I think about it and I went, wow, she's absolutely right. Because what I had this thing that I would do is when people who are in service positions would do something that I didn't like, I would get really mad and I would get angry with them. I would take it out on them. That wasn't okay. And so I learned to work with kindness and to face that one thing. I mean, okay, let's face it, there's more than one thing that I needed to work on with myself, but this big thing about myself that was so counter to my values that I was still doing out in the world. And I changed this thing about myself because I was courageous enough to see that I was doing this thing and I was this thing. And I became and started embodying my values after that. And I became somebody I liked so much more. And I didn't even understand that I didn't like this thing about myself. It was wonderful. It was hard though, and it was awful, but it was so beautiful and amazing afterwards.
That's absolutely beautiful and well done. Because, it takes a lot of courage to deal with something head on. Absolutely.
Yeah. It was hard. It was hard, but it was so worth it. So worth it.
Absolutely. So, what took you on a journey of becoming a decluttering coach? Was it from your own experiences? Because
Yes, it actually was. Yeah. So when you're when you're a therapist, the hope is that you do all the things that, and it is something, is it's my personal philosophy. And I tell all my clients, I will never tell you to do something or ask of you something that I either haven't done or I wouldn't be willing to do myself. And
Mm.
so I had done the therapy and I'd done the coaching and I had worked on my physical being and I was on a path of working on my spiritual being. And I had, I got into, I happened to have gotten into watching YouTube videos, and I had never understood why people watched YouTube videos. I know it was, the entire world understood this concept, but I didn't.
Mm.
But because I had kind of slowed down a little bit, I had this extra time. And so I used it to watch YouTube. It's very silly. However, I started watching decluttering and cleaning videos. I got fascinated by them. Now, I had always thought that I was a slob. This was my limiting belief. This was what I thought of myself. And I just kept watching these and watching them and watching them. And one day I decided I'm going to do this. I'm going to declutter something. And it actually happened to be a drawer of tank tops. And there's Marie Kondo has this way of folding clothing it's called file folding.
Mhm.
And I had heard of this and I thought, oh, I'd never do this. I would never be able to keep this, maintain this. And I was watching a YouTube video by this woman. Her channel is called actually How to Get Your Shit Together. And she explained this. I went, I'm just going to try it. So I went in, emptied all the tank tops out, and got rid of half of them, folded them up like Marie Kondo describes to do. And it was amazing. It felt so good. And then that started bleeding into other things. And in my book, Ditch Your Shit, I actually describe this moment in my kitchen where I like kind of lost it and I hated everything. And it really launched 3 months of decluttering my entire house. But I'll tell you, I then had a moment where I stood in my kitchen and it felt so good because it wasn't cluttered and it was so
Mhm.
easy to clean. Because I had been the person who always had like dishes piled up in the sink. Like I would do a load of dishes in the dishwasher, but there would still be dishes in the sink. And instead of washing those by hand, even though I grew up hand washing dishes, I would
Mhm.
just kind of spray them down. I mean, this is disgusting. It really is. I'm not proud of this. And then I would just pile more dishes on top of them. It was awful. It was just awful. But after I decluttered, I had systems in place. I
Mm.
would every day do a load of dishes. Every morning, I would unload those dishes. The kitchen counters were empty. They had no stuff on them. It was easy to clean up every day. And I stood in the middle of my kitchen and realized this is self care. Caring for
Mm.
your home is self care. And I wanted everyone to feel this way. And that was a pivotal moment for me. And then all of my clients started getting the question, what is your home like?
Mhm.
Because as therapists, we don't have a tendency to ask that. And so I started shifting to this coaching model and then started doing decluttering coaching on top of the therapy work that I do.
Wow. Because here's the thing, absolutely. We think we're tidy, we do things, but it certainly has a knock-on effect. You leave something to one side, and before you know it, there's a whole load of things.
Yes,
Absolutely. Where does one start to even start decluttering? Because there's so many people find it so overwhelming. Where do they start? I think they look at things and think, oh, I can't face it. I'll do it another day. And they put it off and put it off.
it's okay. That question, I was thinking about that question a lot this past weekend, actually. And I've decided that where do I start is not the right question.
Hmm.
I've decided what is stopping me from starting is the right question.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And so you noted the overwhelm.
Mhm.
Overwhelm is probably the number one feeling that people express to me. And so I'm overwhelmed. Okay, so then what is overwhelming you? The amount of stuff, the amount of tasks. Well, it also might be my fear that I'm going to fail, my fear that I'm going to get rid of things that I'm going to regret later.
Hmm.
Um, it's there's a lot of reasons why you're not starting, and identifying that for yourself, I think, is actually incredibly important. Sitting down, maybe even journaling about it. What is stopping me from starting? And I'm overwhelmed is a place to start. What is overwhelming me is the next thing to ask yourself. But if we're looking for something very practical, where do I start? You can start with something very small. You
Hmm.
can start with a small win. So again, I'm going to talk about my book a bit here again. Just in my book, I talk about, like, you can start with a little win. So, like, something that it's something that you just it's been you've been eyeballing it for a lot, and you just go, I'm going to grab that one thing, and you just go, that thing, it's I'm getting rid of it, and it goes in the bin,
Hmm.
or it goes to a donation or whatever it is, and, like, whew, okay, wash your hands of it, it's gone. Or what about a big item? Maybe it's a piece of furniture. So when that thing is gone, it's going to feel like some massive event has happened, and it's
Hmm.
going to feel like you really accomplished something, and that might really boost you into motivation. Or maybe it's something really annoying, like you've been thinking about all the stuff under the kitchen sink. You know that there's all these cleaning supplies perhaps under the kitchen sink, and you know that there's a bunch of things that you don't use, and it's just it annoys you to think about it. So you go and you tackle that. So you can kind of decide on maybe a category of something. Or we have this one tried and true thing, which is do 27 items. 27 is this really important number. You'll find it in a lot of places in different philosophies around the world, actually. And you could just go around your house with a tub, a basket, or something, and grab 27 items and say, that's where I'm starting.
Wow. Not heard of that before. Tell me more. I'm really intrigued.
It was one time I went through my jewelry and I grabbed 27 bracelets,
Mm.
and that felt good because I don't know, it was just this little tiny handful of 27 little bracelets, but they were gone. I
Mm.
had one gentleman, he got rid of 27 plastic grocery bags,
Wow.
but it was something.
Mm.
I've had other people go around their homes and find all kinds of different things, big things, little things. But 27 is it's this number that you'll find it in Buddhism, you'll find it in Christianity, you'll find it in, like, again, a lot of different philosophies.
Mhm.
So there's something magical about it.
Wow, that's exciting. I'll
Mhm.
have to try that.
Yes.
So, what role does fear play in decluttering? Because, like you said, I think a lot of people do think they don't want to get rid of something because they might need it later. And
Hmm.
that's where the fear comes in, and people hold on to things. I mean, there's so much hoarding that goes on as well.
Oh my gosh, yes. So fear fear runs our lives
Mm.
in so many ways. And with decluttering, that fear that you're going to make the wrong decision.
Mhm.
And I'm going to tell you that it is very rare that people afterwards regret having gotten rid of something unless it was a sentimental item. And that only happens really when somebody gets rid of a sentimental item because they thought they were supposed to get rid of it, not because they were actually ready to get rid of it. So I
Mhm.
always say to people, be careful with sentimental items. It's okay to hold on to something, that's sentimental. But with fear, this fear that if you're not perfect,
Mhm.
that you're going to fail, this fear of judgment, the fear that people are judging you for the home that you currently have, fear that people are going to judge the choices that you make, fear that people are going to be mad at you because you got rid of something they gave you, fear that you are going to just it is so there's so many fears around it. I
Mhm.
could probably go on and on, but my brain is kind of seizing up right now. But it's the thing that we have to do then is we have to do regardless of the fear, and that's scary unto itself. And the the clutter that we're holding on to, it's like we're using it as a shield. Like if I have these items, then somehow these items are going to protect me from the world. Like I'm afraid of the world even. And if I have these items, then I'm not going to get hurt. I'm not going to be alone. I'm I'm going to be okay. But the reality is that material items don't do that for us.
Absolutely not.
And one of the in my own decluttering journey, I got to this place where I realized that if something happened to all of my material items, they all disappeared tomorrow. As long as I had my husband and my two cats, I'd be okay. There is not a
Yeah.
single material item that I have to have. The photographs, the sentimental items, the shirts that my husband and I were wearing the night that we met, I still have those 27 years later. If they were to disappear, I'd be okay. The decor, my plants, my books, all of those things. That set me free because there was no longer fear around my belongings.
And that's really quite sobering, actually. Like, because as you were saying that, I was actually imagining that for myself, which I've never ever done before, I can assure you. And it really is. You think, yeah, realistically, it's the family, it's the people.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
I've described that concept to people, that
Mm.
that moment that I had when I realized, if all of it went away, I'd be okay. And I've had a lot of people get very wide eyed and go, "Oh no, 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 no! And that's that. Nope, not that's not okay." And these weren't even necessarily people who were my clients or who were
Mhm.
people dealing with specifically clutter issues. It's it is holding on to material items is very human beings. We're so symbolic.
Mm.
We put so much symbolism into things that the idea that our possessions are us becomes a reality to us. But our possessions are not us. And if they all go away, which in the US here, California, almost every year recently has been having these huge fires,
Mhm.
and many people have lost their homes to these fires, and there are so many people who have lost all of their belongings, and it's something that we have been seeing each year, and these people have been dealing with this. And actually, a woman that I went to high school with, her mother is one of these people. Just everything, one day, it was all gone.
Wow.
And you have to face that then.
Mm. Absolutely loving this conversation because it really does make you think, or at least it really does make you see what's important and what isn't.
Yes. And that's when people are thinking about their clutter, they so often don't understand or don't think about how emotional it is.
Mm.
They think, well, if I just have a list of how to's, then I'm just going to be able to knock this out. They don't think about how much they're going to run into on an emotional level. And so
Mm.
then they become very frustrated and they feel they are failing. And then they're running into that fear thing, and then shame comes into it, and these limiting beliefs. I noted that my limiting belief had been, I am a slob. Many
Yeah.
people have, lots of their own limiting beliefs that hold them back, and this whole thing happens, but they don't understand that that's what's happening. And when you slow down and and kind of take a look at it and understand that this is an emotional experience I'm having, and that's okay. So let's look at the emotions. And so if I pick this vase up and I think about what the emotions are around this vase and this experience, then I can figure out why I do or do not want to keep it. What is the reason I have all this stuff in my house?
Hmm.
And then you figure out, what stage of change am I in? Am I thinking about getting rid of things? Am I making a plan to get rid of things? Am I waffling on that? Am I ready to take action? Am I running, screaming away from the concept? Just having that awareness makes it so you can actually start to get into the action, actually.
Yeah. On the face of it, you wouldn't think how emotional it actually is. And I
Mm,
guess that's why people keep so much belongings, because they think they may need them or they're going to regret losing it,
most
getting rid
definitely.
of it.
Hmm.
And, this nicely goes into my next question. Why would it take courage to declutter? Let's unpack that, please, Kate.
Well, I guess because, just like, I said, when I had to face my therapist telling me, you're a bully.
Hmm.
And I didn't like that. And I didn't want to deal with that. And then I had to sit back and I had to face it, and I had to, and then it moved me forward, and I became more the person I like. To declutter is to sit and to face these things, to face uncomfortable things. That
Hmm.
takes courage. That takes
Hmm.
this strength of your heart and your soul. This heart chakra here, this thing that, and that is amazing. I mean, every single one of my clients who does this work is just astounding. I am
Hmm.
amazed by everything that they do. The One of my clients, who, she and I had been working together in therapeutic work for quite some time, and we
Okay.
shifted over into decluttering work. And
Nice.
with virtual, because we had originally started out working in person in my office,
Hmm.
and then with COVID I moved to virtual work. And so
Hmm.
we started then working, so that I'm now staring into her kitchen, because she's doing her virtual sessions sitting in her kitchen, and I'm seeing her kitchen, and I could see her pantry. And her pantry is this big open space. It's a walk-in pantry with no door on it. And I was constantly trying to get her to get in there and go do some work, and she's resist, resist, resist. And then one day she comes to her session and says, "This weekend, my husband and I went in and we tore it apart and we did it."
Wow.
And I was blown away. The courage it took her to go in there, it was like facing the lion in his den,
Wow.
even though lions don't live in dens. It's a
Mm.
very strange one. That's weird. But she went in there and pulled everything out, because that's what you have to do in decluttering. If to truly declutter something, you have to pull everything out. Whether it's just one shelf that you're decluttering or an entire pantry, you have to pull everything out. If you don't pull everything out, you're half-assing it. I'm just telling everybody that right now. I had to learn
No
that
half
lesson myself.
measures.
So she did this, and they got rid of so much stuff. I can't remember how much she told me that they got rid of, but she took me on a tour, because she could do that with her computer. And she showed me this wonderfully organized open pantry that she now felt so good in. And she's been so proud of it ever since. But she had been afraid.
Mm.
She had been afraid to go in there because she didn't know what she was going to find. And it's not like she was afraid she was going to find mice in there. Although I will say she had once gone and cleaned out her garage with her husband, and they did find mice in there, but
Oh.
that's a whole other story. Yeah, it's a thing. It was more just what she was going to find out about herself in there. Oh, I held on to this. I held on to that. What does it
Mm.
mean about me that we still have this, or that I didn't get rid of that, or that we have 3 bottles of cumin, and things like that. But the courage it takes to go in and face what you feel it means about you, that you have this stuff, or what feels to you about you that you're letting go of this stuff. But on the other side, you feel so good. So it takes faith too.
Absolutely. Brilliant. So tell me more about your upcoming book, Ditch Your Shit, Cluttering Your Mindset to Declutter. And when is it out, Kate?
So it is going to be available in the United States at the beginning of October, and it's going to be available pretty much everywhere else, UK, Europe. I think Australia and New Zealand, it's either going to be available. So everywhere else, November 20th. And I think Australia and New Zealand, it might be available November 20th or January of
Okay.
2026. So it's a little weird. But anyway, so the book is, it is, the first half of it is about understanding the stages of change and where you're at in those stages of change and
Mm-hmm.
how you move in and out of them. It's about the role that perfectionism, shame, limiting beliefs, and fear play in the clutter that is in your home, how your values play into what you keep and what you don't keep, how all of your habits, your good and bad habits, or in the book I call them shitty habits, play into what you have and how you can change those habits, how to truly set goals, like really giving you concrete ways to set goals, and then applying all of that to these different areas of your home. So your kitchen, your bedroom, your clothes, I separate those two out, your bathrooms, your storage areas, your sentimental items, your living spaces, your communal living spaces, all that. And it really is a book that is about, it is a book to read basically before you read any of the other decluttering books, because it gets into the mental and emotional stuff that the other books just aren't going to get into. Because I'm a psychologist, I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
into this deeper stuff that just understandably the other ones aren't going to get into as deeply, just because of my profession.
Okay.
And it is, I've just been, as we're recording this, I'm working on last reviews, and it's a really good book. Like, it's when you read your own stuff and you're like, oh wow, this is really good. And so I'm really excited for everyone to read this. Very excited.
Absolutely. And all the links will be in the show notes. So please do go ahead and get your copy.
Yes, please do.
Tell me more about your work and what it actually involves. How does one go about starting and, what do you do for them?
So when people work with me in decluttering coaching, I do this in a couple of different ways. They're coming to me, and we, depending on where they're at in their mental emotional work, we might be doing a lot of kind of almost like more therapeutic work up front, but we also might be doing things where, because of virtual, because everything is done virtually these days,
Mm.
um, it might set me up in a room, and they go through their stuff and they can show me things. And what's really neat is when people go through, say, a closet, and they'll show me items and they'll tell me about the items. And it helps them to make these decisions because they're telling me about the items and then making the decisions. And it's easy, it helps them because when they're alone, they sometimes have a more difficulty making those decisions.
Mm.
Whereas while I'm with them, it's a little bit easier. So there's a combination of this back and forth of this sort of work, sort of the mental and emotional, and the more concrete, let's get down and dirty and do some decluttering work. It's hard, but it's really good. And for me, it's a lot
Absolutely.
of fun.
Absolutely, I bet. Because, as you're decluttering, like you said, the wardrobe perhaps, you can
Mhm.
see this item and says, oh, yeah, I remember this. I wore this at so and so. That needs to go. I won't wear that again. I mean, I can imagine it will be fun. But yeah, you've got the emotional attachments as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
So, what is one of the most important lessons you've learned over your life so far?
Mm, that that the things that seem so bloody important just sometimes aren't. The things that have caused me so much anxiety were just not worth all of that fuss.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And simple, but yet so meaningful.
It's
Deep.
it's one it's one that
Mm.
I really, really dug into and learned
Mhm.
e- with my whole heart this past
Mm.
year with some life experiences, and it's true.
Absolutely. So you have given us so many tools, daily steps to anyone that wants to start focusing on decluttering. What is your key takeaway, Kate?
To give yourself some grace and to go slowly. If you need to go slowly, it's okay. As long as you are still moving forward, then stuff is getting done.
Ah, brilliant. I love that. So where can the listeners find you online, your book? What's your website, Kate?
My website is soulfulspacecoaching.com, and you can find my book. While I have links on my website for the book, you can also find it in places like Amazon and all over the place,
Mhm.
etc., like that. And you can on Facebook, I am, and Instagram, I'm Kate Evans Coaching. These days, I think you can actually find me there. My name is a very difficult name to search because it's so common, but I think it's getting easier to search me.
I'll put the links in the show notes for your social media handles as well. So
Oh,
therefore, if anybody wants to directly get in touch with you, they most certainly can, and your social media.
wonderful.
Thank you for sharing your insightful wisdom and knowledge with us today. And by doing so, you have helped so many people make a difference. I'd really like to acknowledge you for that, Kate Evans.
Thank you so much for having me here today. This has been so wonderful.
It's been my pleasure, absolute pleasure. So we are all about Create the Courage to Be Fearless podcast here. What is your definition of courage?
To do regardless of the fear, I really feel that that is what we do have to do in life.